joining in. Welcome to Parador. Parador India is a leading international brand for premium quality wooden flooring with a rich German legacy of more than 40 years. It is from the house of HIL, a CK Birla company. Today we have come here for an interesting session which is called Start with the Floor, sharing inspiring stories of successful entrepreneurs from the field of architecture and design, knowing them from the very foundation, which is from the floor and then to the ceiling. Introducing myself, I am architect Himani Ahuja. I am an architect by education, but an architectural journalist and a communication specialist from profession. I'm also the co-founder of One Digital and DesignWorks Asia. Let's welcome our guest for the monsoony evening, which is Ajay Gupta. He is the Executive Director of KGD, a Katerra Design Partner. He is the Executive Director, like I said, for KGD. He is an alumnus of Illinois Institute of Technology, USA. He holds an experience of over 2 decades in successfully handling design assignments across the globe. Let's welcome him. And before I welcome him, let me tell you a little more about him. I think that's a really short introduction of what I can justify, right? So talking about KGD, KGD is a huge international firm with different segments, and apart from his professional role, Ajay has also served as a guest faculty for Department of Hospital Administration at the prestigious All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi, and is also on the advisory board member of various platforms. Before KGD, he's also worked at various international architecture firms. Let's have him soon. I'm waiting for architect Ajay Gupta. He would be here with us soon.
Hi Himani, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Hi,
Can you hear me though?
Yes. It's perfect. I can hear
Okay.
you well.
Good, all well. Can't complain.
Okay, great to see you and great to meet you. Meet you actually. But let's know about you. We've kind of spoken about you a little before you joined in. I've told the
Oh
audience
no.
what really this is about. So I know and they already know about you. So let's start. Let's know from you about, what really is this design into you. So tell us about your early years and, can you tell me about the house you grew in?
Sorry. What was the last thing you said, Himani?
Can you
Couldn't
tell
hear
me
you.
about the house you grew in? Your early years of growing up.
Oh yeah. And I think when you say early years, it feels like I'm old, but that's not the way I play. But, but I think it's been 25 years since I started my practice in architecture. And I think it's been an interesting ride. It's been an interesting ride. It's been different countries, different exposure, different types of buildings. I think from Delhi to Chicago back to Bangalore, from Bangalore doing projects all around Middle East, India, some in Northern Africa too, some in Middle East, some in Southeast Asia. So it's been an actually interesting ride. I would not want to change anything out of it, but I think it's been actually the profession of architecture probably gives you that luxury to see the world in some sense, professionally and personally. So I think that's been the upside of the last 25 years of doing this business, for sure.
Right.
Mm.
That's interesting. Okay, so do you always feel connected to the built environment? Was it really that time as well that you always knew that this is what you wanted to do?
I know I'm not so dramatic about it. It's not like I'm a singer and I always knew I'm going to be a rock band. No, not like that. I would not probably classify myself like that. But yes, actually, I was talking to somebody in the afternoon. I said, I like to play with Lego. And because I like to play with Lego as a toy, I think I became an architect. So that's the only reason I feel that I become an architect because I love Lego.
That
And that's pretty much it. I don't think I have a calling. I was 5 years old and I designed something. No, I don't think that's the calling I had. But it's
right.
been I do perceive buildings since a young man, a young boy, I would say, constantly what's happening around me. I'm very sensitive to the environment, built environment around me. I think maybe that's partly the reason. But it's a muscle memory. I don't think I did a calculated way of thinking, yaar, architect banenge, ye karenge. I don't think it worked out like that. It's more subconsciously, yes, I was an architect by nature. I think so, somewhere there.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So, was there any foundation that was laid like before you got into architecture? What was the founding stones that you really felt that, okay, this is the profession that I'm going into?
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I will realize that maybe you are much younger than me, so maybe you will
Yeah.
not realize. Uh, the founding stone is not by you. Your environment is a founding stone. Anyhow, in India, in my time, I'm not so old. I'm again saying that, but it's still in my time. Uh, uh, everybody became an engineer or a doctor. You had to choose between those streams if you had good scores. Basically, that it was as simple as that. And somehow, my uncle, my mom's brother, he was
Right.
a urban designer and from on the government side of Punjab, and he was actually chief town planner Punjab one time. So he was a big post in the same vertical I am in today. And he inspired, why you want to do engineering? Why don't you become an architect? And then,
Right.
architecture profession has been glamorized in the media for ages. You can see movies where architect is a happening man and all that. So maybe that aligned me that my uncle is also saying it. It seems like it's the right way to do, and I have some artistic skills and I have some engineering skills. Maybe I'll combine them both and do this, and that's how it probably panned out to be. It was interesting. But yeah, I think my uncle was the driving force. Otherwise, maybe I would not gone that direction, I would
Great. So I believe then, your uncle became your influence to get into the profession, and he really led the founding stone that we are talking about. So,
say.
post that, once you started, this profession, not the profession, I would say, when you started your college life, was there specific type of design philosophy that you picked up?
No, I only blamed my uncle that he kahan bhej diya. That's the only thing I picked up. So I think no, nothing to, and nothing to be very specific like that. I am I'm an inside out man. I would rather build a building for a purpose and then actually make an architectural language out of it. I'm a little opposite to
Right.
that. That's why I did my master's from IIT Chicago, which is Mies van der Rohe. It was a very minimalistic approach of design there. So I think purposeful architecture is what probably drives me. It should not be my fascination or my fantasy to build something. And I don't think I'm that kind of man. And I think I stick to that. I think there should be a purpose to the building you design, and the purpose should be lived first, and then everything added on top of it. I think that's
Right. I totally agree with you on that. So you finished your college. Okay, we talk about the philosophy. You do not have that philosophy. You built onto it, right? So I want to know from you that before you joined KGD. So what were you doing before that? Like, what was your
oh
role
yeah.
and your responsibilities?
Interesting. I'll just run my small life in 2 seconds for you. I graduated from Delhi from Sushant School of Art and Architecture, which is in Gurgaon in Delhi. And I think I
Right.
worked in Delhi for a year or so, and then I I moved to Chicago to do my master's in architecture at IIT Chicago, Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago. And I
Right.
finished that, worked in Chicago for 12 years odd. And I think calling came that I should come back home. I had an opportunity. The founding partner of KGD called me and said, why don't you join hands with me? So I moved back to India, Bangalore. And this is the 13th year running. And so I'm running this firm with him
Wow.
for now 13 years. And that's the short of it. So I'm saying in a very short spell.
Right. So that's an interesting journey, and especially getting a call from the founding director and wanting him to join you. that's a milestone is in itself, you know. So I mean that's good. Okay, so
Yeah, I think.
yeah, yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
please,
Go
please
ahead.
carry on. No, no, I think
Go ahead.
that was, it was a good opportunity for me. And this was a hybrid opportunity to be an entrepreneur and still get to do what you got to do with somebody else aligning with you, right? Business in India is
Right,
not easy. Business in India is not easy, and like it or not, architecture is a business if you want to make money out of it. So I think having him around as a founder gave the backbone of the business, and then he's an architect himself, not that, but and then me joining hands, we probably could build and kind of lean on each other to build the business, so to say. I think
right,
beyond that point.
right, right. So do you believe that, you know, architectural business, you know, like we're talking about the business of design, it has an impact on the architectural vocabulary?
Yeah. I think it should. Actually, the word business of architecture, like it or not, the way we practice architecture today in India or abroad, everywhere, is again a client-driven architecture. You can push your ideas, you can push your philosophies because he doesn't know how to envision his philosophies. So you help him do that. But I think the context is still you have your job is to drive his vision and make a building out of it. I think so. I think if you think you are going to build a building the way you want it for another person, that's actually wrong practice in my head. Your job is
Right,
to interpret what the client or the user wants out of it because he can't interpret. He doesn't have that. And then use that as the vocabulary of architecture. I would say that is the right approach of doing business and or
right.
designing a building. I think so.
Right, right. But do you really feel that it's the role of an architect to educate the client in certain areas? Because a lot of times we've had debates that, you know, the skyline is disrupted because, you know, the client wanted something, but it doesn't go with our environment, and, you know, all of those things that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game of architecture, I will not even call it profession right now. The game of architecture is to get the right client first. I think. If
Right,
your client just has money and has an ego, I'm being very, very blunt, the project is screwed anyhow, to be very frank. He should hire you because he wants to use your brain and use your actually intellect in the subject of architecture to explore his vision. If he's stuck up in certain ideas, I saw that in Dubai, I saw that in US, I saw that in
yeah,
Europe. No, it's a disaster to happen anyhow. So you do it for the sake of commercials, maybe, but you can't expect that to be a portfolio making architecture out of it. So to say, I think that's the reality
right,
of it. Huh?
right, right. So do you believe that there is any architect or there's certain type of architecture that influences your work specifically or your work habits for that matter?
Yeah, I think one of the architects I like, and I think I did get a chance to work with him. Work means as a student intern in US was Remkul Has. Remkul Has actually did the student center in my college in US, and we were the chosen group of people who helped him win the competition. And there were students aligned to every architect, to give some case studies or do the groundwork. So we were chosen to help him. Luckily, he
Right.
won the job, and that building was built. So I think his I think ideologies at that time. I'm not sure right now because I don't follow him constantly.
Yeah.
The building was exactly what I said before. The building had a purpose. There was actually the purpose was drawn by us as groundwork people, and he built building around it. So I think if you go to my college in Chicago ever, there's a student center and there's a crisscross building cut into it, and that was
Yeah.
crisscross for a reason. There was actually pathways of students walking through that path. He kept the path and built the building around it. So it's a
Wow.
simple idea, nothing
Right.
special about it, but the simple idea was actually probably the best to happen. That whatever people were moving in the direction, he kept those lines open and actually took it from there. I think that so he's kind of an inspiration for me. I think in that sense for sure.
Right, right. I think he laid the founding stone from where, you know, the public worked in, right? So
Yeah.
people were of his prime importance, and then it worked around it. That's an interesting idea, and I think if we could work out like that, then buildings would be much more efficient now
Yeah.
than just being structures, right?
Yeah. I think the context of a building can be driven by a lot of factors, and this was one of the factors he chose as a principal architect. But I think
Right,
context has to be chosen and obviously aligned for the final purpose of the utilization of the building. I think that's key to it. I think.
right, right. Do you have any favorite part of the job, or do you have any least favorite part of your job?
Yeah, least favorite I know. Favorite I can't tell you. I don't know. Least favorite is to get money from the client.
I agree. sure. I think that's a straight, crisp answer, and I think a lot of people have issues with it. But okay, nice. But there's no favorite part of the job.
Yeah, favorite when he pays on time. No, no, I'm just kidding. Sorry. No, I think no, I think favorite is when we conceive a project. I think when the first few runs of meetings happen and you pick the client's brain, he picks your brain, and you come up with an idea. And the first time a client and you are aligning to something you have designed, I think that's the high point. And that's that. And the second high point probably will be when you see the building come up to a certain point. When you see that on paper translate into a real building to a certain level, then actually the high point. So there are two high points in my mind. When you conceive and the client and you align to the concept you have arrived to, and then when the building is coming up, not the final product also, when the building just starts coming up, I think that's the high of an architect, I think.
I agree. Okay, so since we are talking about build spaces, before I move on to various questions, I want to kind of showcase a couple of projects done by you and KGD. So, you can tell us a little more about it. And let's see what you have in mind about, its space, its material, its flooring, its ceiling, everything, right?
Sure. I don't know what you're showing. I don't know what my team has sent you, but let's see. I don't remember, sorry.
Okay, let's start with this.
Oh, that's a recent job we have finished actually. It's an interiors job we finished for healthcare. As you know, we are very active in the healthcare space. We just finished this job probably 6-8 months ago.
Okay.
And I think I'm not sure I'm conceptualizing this with you, but the idea of healthcare, especially, and I'm probably not focusing on only this job, is to convert healthcare into a public space rather than an anxiety-driven institutional space, right? So the healthcare environment has migrated from being a hospital to a hospitality with wellness attached to it, right? So that's probably a reflection of that in some sense, where you don't want to be overwhelmed, you don't want to be fed like it's a clinic or a space, you don't want to be there. It's just a nice space, you sit and you meet your doctor or get your lab work done and move on. So I think that's we're trying to constantly do that in the healthcare space for sure. Not only this project, I would say there are multiple jobs where we try to showcase hospital not as a hospital. That's our goal. And on the lighter side, I always say that hospitals are hotels on medical gases. So I think that's what we want to actually move on to and make the patient comfortable. I think that's it.
Right. Okay, let's move on to this.
Right. Well, that's Google. Actually, that's a interior space we designed there's another principal architect we have called Fancy George. She designed the space for one of our clients. I've not taken the name, but it's one of the international MNCs, and they have a very, very creative workspace. And the idea is still to make everything very flexible. Don't make a rigid workspace. The millennials are not people who like to work like we did when I was younger, forced in a space and worked. This is creating spaces where everybody can think loud, do what they think is right, and be productive. I think so. All corporate interiors are probably driven by that today in the workspace for sure. I think there's no way around that. That you feel home, you feel warm, you feel it's my space. I can think freely. I don't need to be put in a corner on my desk and work like an idiot. So I think. So this is actually probably a reflection of one of those spaces we have designed. Constantly, when we're doing corporate interiors, that's the goal again. It's all. When I said healthcare is one environment, in corporate interiors, the environment is to make that everybody who works there feels that it's not again, I'm using the word institutional. It's not an institutional setup where you're queued up with desks which are white and gray, and then you work your 8 hours or 9 hours and walk out. It's a place you belong to, right? So for we belong to, you need to have furniture where you can mingle, you can relax, you can talk. You can see the colors also are a little more warm colors. This is a color you may have in your living room or in your study. So it's to make you feel comfortable in the space and own the space in some sense. So I think that's the goal we try to achieve in all these corporate interiors when we do. And I think it's quite successful. I think client is quite happy. So I would say it's quite successful in that sense.
Right. Let's move on to this one.
Oh, that's an older job. Actually, we did for a microfinance company in Hyderabad. Again, it's a microfinance, so you can see the architecture is reflecting vernacular architecture because it's actually catering to the rural India, so to say. And a lot of material qualities are touch and feel, handmade materials and reflection. Actually, the MD's office is also an open office with a bullock cart kind of things sitting on it. I don't know if you have the image of that or not. So it's actually
Yeah.
a reflection of the business they are in. So this was a interior, actually existing client who wanted that my clients feel that they're home. So their clients are all rural clients who come for microfinance, right? So the whole space was created so it feels like a small village, not a dirty village, a small village with a lot of vernacular elements. Like you can see some bricks, some. I can see, some obviously greenery is there. Some of the materials are very picked, like artifacts from a village. You can, if you see the boardroom, you don't have the image of that. It's
Right.
plastered like somebody did a hand plastering of it. So I think it's a reflection of the business rather than actually anything else and the clientele they belong to. I think it was a very interesting job. I think it was done a few years ago. Now it's been, I think 5 years ago. I think so,
Right.
close to that.
Right.
Okay. I think this is the same project, different image. You can see
Yeah.
that how the cafeteria. It's actually the same thing I said. It's a reflection of that.
Yeah.
It feels like you're sitting in a dhaba or something like that. So it's about probably to
Exactly.
resonate the business idea and resonate the people who actually generate all the business for them. I think that's what it is.
Right. Okay, let's move on to this one.
Sorry, I'm wearing glasses. So I get a little. I think this is this. I think I would comment. You can see if you're seeing a healthcare project. This is a healthcare project.
Yeah.
The
Right.
idea is it should not look like a healthcare project, right? I mean, the whole idea is that I should not feel I'm in a hospital. If I'm in a hospital, then the whole idea of being in a hospital is lost from a design perspective. So I think you can see the finishes are hospitality level finishes, keeping in mind materials which are obviously infection control resistant and all those things. But because healthcare has a lot of those parameters attached to it, that you don't need to have any fungal growth growing, anything water based. If there's any infection growing, we want to avoid that. But beyond that, I think it's warm space like a hotel corridor, and that can be reflected. And when you walk in, you don't feel you're in. The whole idea is a
Right.
feeling of the customer. And the way I actually explain to somebody else is, if I make enough money to go to a 5-star resort in Thailand or Sweden or anywhere, why would I not want to go to a 5-star hospital when I'm really sick?
Exactly.
Right? My 5 days of resort. Why would I not want to do that when I'm 5 days in a hospital? So I think it'll be immature to say that I want to go to a crappy hospital and I just want to go to a nice resort when I'm healthy. So I think that's we constantly reflect on that in the healthcare environment for sure.
Right. I think that's a great takeaway, and I think it just kind of churns my brain in a different way. Why we haven't thought like that ever before, and it's great to have from you. And I think it's a different concept. If you see the project entirely, it's not white. That's what people really think of as a hospital, right? And there is a different color scheme that is playing out there, and it's not one monotony that is maintained, right? So that kind of right. Okay, let's talk about this one.
Yeah, I think this is again. I would not want to comment on individual slides, but these are a continuation of the same. This is again a healthcare space. You can see this is a waiting space, and you can see it's got some stones, it's got some wood. It feels. If I didn't tell you it's a healthcare space, you can even think it's a lounge in a hotel. Right? There's nothing wrong with me saying that. Right?
I
Yeah.
actually made this picture because I wanted you to tell me whether it's a hotel lobby or what exactly this is.
No, it is it's a hospital. Can you imagine? So I think the same I think thought process which I said. You want people to be comfortable, and health is one of these issues because I even teach in the healthcare environment. You don't want people to be anxious. Your health improves if you're not anxious. Forget the treatment first, okay? If 25% of your recovery is because you're not anxious, the rest 75 is medical treatment. So the more you comfort the human in the space you provide. As an architect, I can only provide a space. I have no control on operation. I have no control on how good the doctor is. I have no control on how the staff is. But if my space is a pleasant space for somebody to sit and feel warm and fuzzy about it, and I think that's my work is done. My work is done. That's what I was saying.
Right. Okay, so playing the last picture, which is this one.
This is again. I think you have shown some pictures of a corporate office and healthcare mix of that. This is and then you realize I think the discussion predominantly revolves between corporate and healthcare. And sadly, because of COVID, we are mixing it together also nowadays because of the COVID situation. But I think the way healthcare wants to be hospitality for warm and fuzzy space, corporate offices want to be flexible, open, approachable. I'm looking for words, accessible, my space. So I think this is a reflection of that again. You can see the wooden flooring, you can see the couch. It doesn't overwhelm you. You are not entering a space which is trying to tell you you have come to a space which you don't belong to, right? It's about belonging. It's feeling warm and fuzzy. And I actually did a lecture for another client of ours, and I said the real office anybody wants to finally have is a small carpet and a chair and a wooden desk and a lamp on it, and that's everybody's real office, because that's how people can think freely. If you give them a white and a gray desk with a laptop or a desktop on top of it with a strip light on the ceiling, you are giving them a space where they're not comfortable, mentally comfortable with, and they don't think openly. So I think nothing wrong with that kind of office. There's a need of that, but I think we have moved on. We have moved on. We are not doers anymore. We are also thinkers. So I think India as a market is also becoming knowledge-based market rather than just being, I'm a BPO, I've done this task, I do these 4 tasks, right? So when you become a thinker, you need to have a space which you can think freely and think and do your work properly, I think.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those examples for that, I think.
I agree. Okay, so I mean, if I specifically talk about this picture, if you can just tell me, was there a specific reason for using such materials? Because, now I see a lot of people are using, wooden laminate flooring, or, they're using such strong materials which kind of, relate to the earth. So, has it been in a trend series?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think we'll touch base on the flooring for sure, because I tell you why.
Yeah.
This we as Indians, I'm sorry, I'm being very. We just jump on a material which we see in some other Western country and think it's a great material, right? And India has got a bad name for doing that constantly. So in the last 2 decades, I think we have used fake wooden flooring. I'm just sorry using that word, and nothing wrong with the word fake, but and in a very abrupt way in residential markets, so to say, right? In a residential market, to showcase people, see a master bedroom has this flooring and that flooring. And in this race of material, the real wooden flooring has been lost. I think today, in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of real high quality wooden floorings have come in place, which actually, even if they are not real 100%, they actually do justice to the material of wood 100%, right? I think, and wood as a material is a very, very warm material to be used. The more, if you realize, in India, if you go to Kashmir or in northern India, even if it's a wooden flooring, you just feel warm and fuzzy just because it's wooden in a winter day. Right? And I think that is reflecting in corporate environment right now. You see this picture. It's reflecting in the corporate environment, because the same feeling you want to get everywhere now, right? Again, my best office would be my bedroom with a desk and a chair with a wooden desk, maybe a lamp, a plant, and a probably family picture, right?
Yeah.
So I think we are in the market now where we have high-end products to actually help us do that. But sadly to say, we've been mimicking those things in a very bad way for 2-3 decades, and they've been not successful, and people just say, I don't think it's a good product to use. I disagree now. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, I probably say I disagree now.
Right. And I believe that, people should also care about the kind of maintenance that goes along with products, which people do not see when they are kind of imitating something, right? So,
Yeah.
that's very important.
No, I think it totally said it's not about the architecture. It's about anything. If you buy I'm just using maybe, if you buy a shirt and it can't be ironed, it has to be dry cleaned. You need to read the damn label, right? You have to read the damn label. So I think we just are immature about it, and we Indians like to wash everything, right? I mean, we like to wash every floor of ours somehow. It's overkill, but sorry, we do. So I think there are some challenges like that, but every material which you have has a high longevity if you do it right. If I want to mess it up, I can mess it up, and actually it not be right. So I think we have some challenges like that in the market. But I think it's there are a lot of products we shy out of using because we have bad name in the last 2 decades. I think that's what it is.
Right. Okay, great insight. All right. So let's move on to the questions back again. Thank you for such an insight into your projects. Okay, so I would want to know, since we've seen so much of the photographs, I want to know which is your favorite style of architecture or interior design. Has it been contemporary or traditional? What exactly do you like?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I truly would not want to answer this way or that way, traditional or contemporary. By just pure space, I like contemporary space. The college I went to was a minimalistic approach to it, right? Me is Monroe is less is more. Said
Yeah,
that, I think again I am more driven for the purpose of the space, right? If I have a bedroom, I'm just using as an example. If I have a bedroom which I spend my night with family and all that, I may not want a very contemporary space. I may want a little warm and fuzzy space, right? So
yeah,
it's about the usage of the space probably drives the architecture in my head. Then actually, again, I'm probably overusing the word purpose, but I think purpose has to be very, very right. What you're using that space, your architecture should reflect on that. I think that's key. If I still have to choose, I would say contemporary. But
okay, all right, okay. So, we've seen that you've been an extremely multifaceted person and you've worked on various typologies and various firms. So, do you feel that there is anything that you still haven't achieved and you want to tick off?
yeah, I don't want to only do architecture. I want to do something else also. I think life is too short. I can't, as I told you, I don't think I want to be an architect and die an architect. I'm not one of those who was 5 years old, realized I should have a sketch pen in my hand
Yeah.
or a pencil in my hand. I think I should do something else too. I may be exploring that constantly what I want to do, but and I don't know what I want to do maybe, but architecturally
Okay.
I think I'm satisfied. Architecturally I'm satisfied. I don't think I want to do something which is beyond what I've not done today. I don't think so. I think if I continue to do this architecturally, I'm satisfied. But yes, I want to try something else in life beyond architecture too. Maybe a
Right.
reflection of architecture in some sense. I like cooking, so I may open a restaurant one day. I have a feeling like that, but that's a feeling right
Interesting.
now. So
Okay.
so
All
I
right. But I
so
think
let's see.
pandemic and during the lockdown, a lot of people have, developed the skill of cooking and baking, and I think
No,
that goes along.
no. I have not. I am a reasonably good cook for 25 years. COVID didn't help
Wow.
me, so I don't think that. But I know one of my friends who has never cooked, and for the last 3 months he has been cooking every other day or something like that. So it's interesting. A lot of people haven't taken up, but I cook
Yeah.
reasonably well. Not to
Yeah.
brag about it, but I do reasonably well.
Okay, okay. So has there been, so we've spoken about your personal space. Now I want to know that, professionally, what have been the best moments in your career, let's say till now?
That's a very interesting question, but I wish I could even answer that. I don't think I can answer that
If
because if
not
if
one,
I
you tell me a couple. I don't
that's
mind.
what I'm saying. If this was one, my life will be very sad. If I only had one, I think there are high moments every so often, right? So again, to point what they are, I don't know, but I think life is about high and low constantly. If I had only one high in 2 years and low all the time, I'd be very upset with life. So, but on a bigger macro level, I think moving to India from US, I worked there 13 years and came here. And what I got to learn, explore, and do was probably highlight. I think it was a good move. Like it or
Right.
not, a lot of people in US told me, "Yeah, you have a green card. Why are you moving back?" I said that is different. So I think my gut feeling of moving back to India was a good move. I felt very good about it. I think, and it's been a good ride since. So I would not complain.
Yeah, I think a lot of people hesitate to do that, and I think that's a big move in itself to kind of move cities also.
Yeah, now it's changing. I think now nobody will probably be there so often. But I think, but when I moved 13 years ago, it was like a no. Why would you move back, right? I mean, what's the
Yeah.
logic of that? So I think, but it still was a good move. I felt good about it. It was the non-logical thing to do, but it was the right thing to do. I think so.
Yeah, and we are happy to have you back. So don't worry. I
No,
think it was
that's-
a great move. Okay. All right. So we've spoken about this. I want to know that what is your next goal? Like, what are the kind of projects that you're doing right now, and is there any specific typology that you wish to touch in the future?
No, I think first of all, I don't like the word goal. I don't want to have goals in life. Then you just have a goal, and die. So I think you just live life and enjoy the life as you go, and in the middle you do something great. I don't think goals is the right approach for anything. I truly don't believe in those. Said
Okay.
that, I think new typology, I don't know. I think we are very strong in the corporate interiors. We are very strong in the healthcare environment. We are actually very strong. in the general office building space. I wish we can explore it beyond India. I think now India has become a hub of healthcare. A lot of businesses have learned to do. We have learned to do in India. I want to explore to do it in Southeast Asia, Middle East more. We have done it already, but I think we can take knowledge base from here and go out, which we used to do opposite. People used to hire American architects or European architects. Or I think my if you call it a goal or my vision is we are there to help other countries do it better than they can do it. So I think so we're exploring that constantly now to get some knowledge-based architectural work in Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, all those places. I think that would be the next step in that sense.
Right. Okay. So, you've been doing so many projects. I would like, since we are on a platform, we are talking to various people from the design fraternity, and we have an audience, which is also some part of it, a student-based audience. So I would want to know if you can give me, a few tips for young designers starting out today.
Alright, why are you becoming an architect? That's the first. That's the wrong to doing. I wish somebody told me not to become an architect. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think if somebody is listening who was just becoming an architect or want to become an architect, think about it first, because it's one of the professions where you do it for the love of it or for I don't know what your drive for it, but don't do it for the commercial reasons, because this is going to be not a good space for you for sure for a good chunk of time. But said that, if you do whatever you do well, you make money anyhow. Okay, that's different, but it doesn't come default. So if you're doing for the money, don't become an architect for sure. That's my 2 cents to a young architect or a young aspiring. Can you hear? I think I lost you. Is it? No?
Yeah, I think now we're back.
Hello? Okay. Okay. So I think that's my first. And second, architecture is not a stream which is so focused, right? I mean, if I was becoming a software engineer and doing a couple of courses in SAP or I'm just studying Java or something, it's a very focus driven, right? You learn this. Your colleagues also learn the same thing. Then you learn the same thing. Architecture, you have to choose every so often in life, you will have to choose a path and do that direction of architecture. So I think be sensitive to that, because every so often, maybe if you ever, like I've been architect for 25 years, so every 2-3 years I had to probably realign and do what I thought was good for me and good for what I can do. So be open-minded to align to your needs and your talent every so often, because architecture is a platform more than a career in that sense. So it doesn't teach you anything, but it teaches you everything. So I think that opportunity, please don't miss out. I think that is very key. You always think what you want constantly. Don't get complacent in it. I think that is for sure.
Right. And I think architecture in itself opens a lot of avenues for a lot of fields, and I think people can do a lot more with design, and that opens up well, right? So okay, so you told me the advice for young designers. One more thing that I want to ask you is an advice for people who have established design firms. So how to move forward post-pandemic.
No, they're already established. They know better than me anyhow. So I will not want to even give them advice. If you're an established designer, God has been kind. You have been successful. You did something right, and do the same thing again and again. Because as I said, there are different paths for architecture. Everybody has a different looking at it. And I was with colleagues in Chicago for a seminar, and I realized every architect different way of looking at architecture, different practice, and everybody was successful in their own way. So I think the deal is, if you cracked it, just do the same thing again and again, because I think everybody cracks it differently, for sure. Everybody has his own crack of the business. I think that's what it is. That's my advice to people who already have a setup and already doing, good work in the market. That's my 2 cents to it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. It was great having you. And thank you for sharing with us your floor to ceiling journey and telling us about the nitty-gritties of design and showcasing your projects to us and sharing with us. We were very happy to have you.
A pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.